You can, Madam Chair, you can call the meeting to order, please.
Alrighty, I call this meeting of the Brandon Police Board on March 5th, 2021 at 12 noon. I'm looking for an approval of item number 1, approval of the public session agenda. But before approval, I have an addition to the agenda, and it will be discussion on the WCG request for to attend our board meetings. So adding that to agenda, now may I have a motion to accept the agenda as, sorry, I'm just drawing a blank here. I'm so nervous. Can I have a motion to accept the agenda as presented with the addition?
So Sean Berry put his hand up, so he's moving it, and I'd be glad to second it.
Okay, Rick, all right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Item number 2, adoption of the minutes from December 4th, 2020. Does anybody have any questions, or if not, can we have adoption for the minutes, please?
Madam Chair, I have a request for an amendment.
Okay.
So under the minutes, I have 2 changes I would like to request. On page 3 of my report,
okay,
last paragraph, it speaks to the seizure of meth, and it said 1,785 grams, and it should have read 1,685 grams. That was my typing error that I didn't catch.
Okay, so noted.
And on item number 7, update on detention facilities, that number should read $330,000, not $320,000 for the grant from the province.
All righty. Any other changes of the minutes? No, seeing none, then can I have a motion to accept the adoption of the minutes with adjustments made by Chief Balkin? Susan Meehan? The seconder, please.
I can second.
Marisha, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. All righty, we'll go on to number 3 of the agenda. It's an appointment of the chair for the 2021 year. I will look forward for nominations from the floor for the chair for the ensuing year.
I would nominate Deb Arpin.
Okay, we have Deb Arpin put forward by Rick Crest.
Provided she consents to that.
Yes, I will, but we'll just, but any other names wish to be put forward for chair at this time? Seeing none, I guess I will accept the chair with thanks from my nominator. Now, so
to
that
make it solid, Madam Chair, then I would move that Deb Arpin be appointed Chair of the Police Board for 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All those in favor?
I think you got to get a seconder.
Oh, seconder, sorry. Susan, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. All righty, so that with me now becoming chair, I have a vice chair vacant. I'm looking for nominations for the vice chair.
These are always kind of clunky. I would say we don't have the greatest process to do our executive, so it leaves it. And so we do have one, when we had our little subcommittee meetings, I did ask Tim McFadden if he was interested in letting his name stand, and now he can't be here today due to a family emergency that arose last night. So Tim would let his name stand. Again, certainly would welcome all others, but just getting out ahead of it, he did indicate he would allow his name to stand.
All right, so Tim McFadden, now is that with him absent, are we allowed to do that, Ms. Nelson?
Pardon me, Madam Chair, I didn't hear you.
With Mayor Rick has put through Tim McFadden's name, but because Tim is unable to attend today due to a family emergency, are we allowed to accept Tim's name because he's prepared to let it stand as vice chair?
I believe so, yes.
All righty, thank you. We have Tim McFadden's name put forward. Is there any other nominations for the position of vice chair? Seeing none, would you like to put that forward then, Mr. Mayor, in your words?
Sure, I would move that Tim McFadden be appointed Vice Chair of the Police Board for 2021.
All righty, thank you. All those in favor?
Need a seconder again, Deb.
Oh, sorry, I keep forgetting. Seconder for that motion?
Like you got Barry Cullen.
Yep, Sean Barry. I have Sean. Anyways, all those in favor? Carried. All right, well, we'll move on to item number 4 of the agenda, the report from Chief Balkin. Go ahead, Mr. Chief Balkin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And to the Police Board, my copy of the Chief's report has been mailed out previously. However, to bring it forward, highlight a few areas. Again, when I took this role on, I was committed to being out in the public as much as possible and meeting with the public and having discussions, and COVID has really put a curb on that for a number of reasons. Obviously, we can't gather in public and the social distancing. So my community level involvement isn't where I would like to have it pre-COVID. However, we're still trying to do as best we can via either Teams meetings or Zoom or other type of facilitated meetings. So we do still do as many as we can, and you can see from the number that we have, we've had some discussions regarding budget deliberations that were coming up, police board policy that we are presently working on, capital project planning. I'm a member of the 26 Field Regiment Senate Committee, so that was done via Zooms. Our department head meetings, my one-on-one with the city manager and the police chief continued via Zoom or Teams meetings, so we did continue that at the local level. At the provincial level, we had meetings with law enforcement and the emergency measures operation. We have that every 2 weeks regarding COVID enforcement and COVID issues throughout the province, and it includes all of my contemporaries as well as members of the Manitoba government and their different departments. We also had some discussions on the Police Services Act, Manitoba Criminal Intelligence Center meetings that we have, as well as the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police discussion. Rather than having the annual general meeting, it was done via Teams. So some of these areas we continue to do as best we can via electronic means. I'll skip over the budget piece right now in my report as it's a separate heading, but again, we still see issues within the community with the methamphetamine crisis and with generalized drugs within the city. We're successful in removing approximately 1,704 grams of methamphetamine from the streets in 2020. total of 39 possession charges were laid and 44 trafficking charges were laid. The total number of calls for service was down approximately 5,000 from the previous year, 2020. We had 34,442 calls for service, and this includes 681 bylaw-related calls and 1,822 animal control calls. The average calls per sworn member is also down from where we were at 449 to 382, and this reflects the calls for service being down as well. However, during that time, we did have members that were doing detention facility guarding rather than being out on the streets, so the calls were distributed among a smaller number of members. There was no ride-alongs. I'm sorry, there was only one ride-along in 2020 when it started. We have a ride-along program where we allow members of interested parties in policing to do a ride-along to see what they can expect. That wasn't able to be facilitated in the remainder of 2020 due to COVID restrictions. We also conducted 3,371 criminal record checks, which was a decrease of about 1,800 from the year prior. And again, that was because of the number of employment checks that were lowered due to the COVID time, as well as our office being closed for some of that initial uptake of COVID before we learned about masking and social distancing and the preventative measures that we could take place. So our civilian staff continue to do a large number of files and work behind the scenes to support our officers, and are often the front-facing members of the community when they attend to the police service. So that work certainly did not stop during 2020. It also showed a varied landscape compared to our trends and our calls for service from previous years. And again, because people were encouraged to stay at home, work from home, there was less traffic, especially at the very start of this pandemic. And as we start opening up, our calls for service are starting to reflect what they were in previous years. So with that, if there's any questions, I would certainly be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Chief Balka. Does anyone have any questions at this time for the Chief on his report? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item. Item 5, financial update, 2020 overview and 2021 budget. Go ahead, Chief Balkan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So for 2020, the Brandon Police Service is able to provide a projection for our 2020 results. We're still finalizing the end of year as at the time of this report. But the current budget forecast for the Brandon Police Service reflects a deficit of $1,937 for 2020. So this is comprised of $70,371 deficit in the Police Operating Cost Center and a $68,434 surplus in the Vehicle Operating Costing Center. So this projected result is slightly better than what I reported at our December meeting of $2,050 deficit from our our December 12th, 2020 meeting. The overall forecasted deficit includes a shortfall of budgeted revenues of $450,000, resulting in primarily from decreased fines from ticket revenue and criminal record checks. In addition, funding revenue from a police cruiser was deferred to 2021 in the amount of $90,000. Overall expenses are expected to be $448,000 less than budgeted, driven largely by the decreased detention fees that we did not have to pay after the termination of the direct lockup agreement with Brandon Correctional Center, and that was $135,000, and other savings that have been achieved through the control of discretionary spending that was put in place during COVID, for the amount of approximately $133,000, and the delayed purchase of the cruiser car of $90,000, also including $51,000 in fuel savings contributed to that reduced expenditure. Additional costs to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic, such as hand sanitization, sanitizing the facility, different equipment and PPE, are projected to be about $18,000. And the termination of the direct lockup services at Brandon Correctional Centre and the resulting shift of our staffing to our detention responsibilities was an estimated cost of approximately $49,000, and that included shift differential and wage adjustments. Regarding the 2021 budget, City Council approved Brandon Police Services budget that was presented January 30th, 2021. An amendment was approved that reduced the services budget request by $157,000, and that was the same amount that the service learned that it would be receiving as a one-time funding commitment from the provincial government to assist towards our detention responsibilities. This reduced the Brandon Police Service budget request to $15.249 million, or 4.17%, rather than the 5.24% that had been submitted. And that is my financial report.
All righty, thank you, Chief Balkin. Is there any questions of the Chief at this time on the financial update? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to item 6, update the detention facilities. Up again, Chief Balkin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So our detention facilities, as you're aware, and so that the public is aware, when the direct lockup agreement was discontinued with the province in March of 2020, we were responsible for detention of all of our prisoners that we take into custody until they're remanded or they're able to care for themselves, can be released. So as a result of that, we had many discussions with the province, and they provided us with funding for our detention facilities. The first funding was for $330,000 for the temporary detention center, or movable detention center that is in the south side of our parking lot at the back of the police service. That construction is getting completed as of today, and there will be some final inspections and walkthrough. If anything needs to be finalized, it will be done in the next coming days, but we expect either today or at the start of next week to take full possession and start utilizing those facilities here. That will increase the number of cells that we have and bring us to our 6 temporary detention cells that we use right now, and 6 additional what's called wet cells inside of this detention trailer. So that will include washroom facilities individually in each detention cell. So that project will wrap up very shortly. And the second portion is we have gone out and had tenders put out, and Kolniski Architects has been chosen as the design architect firm for the permanent expansion. So that process is underway with meetings that will take place over the next several months to start the process of design and then move towards construction. That money, again from the government, $4.1 million, will be put towards that facility, and we hope to have that facility completed by March of 2023.
All righty, thank you, Chief Balkin. Is there any questions of the Chief at this time about the detention facilities? Okay, seeing none, we'll move along again to item 7, 2020 annual report update. And again, Chief Balkin, you're up.
Okay. I'll talk about both annual report and our strategic plan. If I can, I'll move them both forward. So the province of Manitoba requires that we provide the annual report and our strategic plan update to them by the end of March 20 of each year. So each year we start that process in January and start looking at the year in review of 2020 for our annual report. And with the great assistance of our IT department, we're able to put this report together. It's getting finalized right now with budget information that we have to wait until the closeout of the year, and to provide accurate budget information as well as our statistical information that we can put into the annual report. We will be highlighting a number of community issues, our detention facility, our partnership with the Assiniboine Community College for our police studies program, the introduction of our new mascot, some of our cases of interest, as well as our budget information and statistical information, chief's message, board message. That will be completed and sent out to the board prior to us sending it to the province, and it will be posted on our website once we have it approved by the board and by the province. And the same with our strategic plan. We're working on updating that, and once that's completed of our results, we will send that out to the board and then on to the province. And this will also go with the package that's required, that's completed by the board secretary each year of the minutes of board meetings that are sent to the province as well.
Thank you again, Chief. Is there any questions at this time of the Chief in regards to item 7 and 8, the annual strategic plan report, or the annual plan and the strategic plan? Is there any questions at this time? Seeing none, Chief, one more time, you're up again.
I have to look at my agenda here, sorry. Oh, the CAPG conference. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Right, the CAPG conference, when Madam Chair and I spoke a couple weeks ago, we thought it would be prudent to bring this forward for an information piece. Each year, the Canadian Association of Police Governance puts on an annual general conference, and we usually send 2 representatives to that. This year, like last, it is up in the air as far as where travel will allow us and whatnot. I know last year there was a virtual conference where people could tune in, but I believe Madam Chair wanted to see who was interested should the conference be open. And I'm doing best guess if they do a live conference. It usually follows the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police conference, which is slated for August this year in Ottawa. So it usually, actually it doesn't follow the CACP, follows the CAPG. So I believe it would be somewhere around the 18th or 19th of August for 3 days in Ottawa, if they follow the same path. I couldn't find anything on their site at this time, and I don't believe the Secretary, Ms. Nelson, could find anything either.
All right, thank you, Chief, for bringing that forward. I know it'll be up in the air for a while yet, depending on vaccines, but if anybody does wish to go, they can quickly send Ms. Nelson a request to go, and then we'll look at it. Like I said, let's cross our fingers that someone can go this year. All righty, we'll move on.
Maybe just, sorry, Madam Chairman. Certainly, I think another year's, for just sort of budget considerations and, also to kind of keep things fair, that was where we had sort of the allotment for 2 to attend on behalf of our board, and, that involved travel and registration and hotels and meals and the like. So there was certainly cost to it. But if it ends up being virtual, then it would occur to me that the costs are reduced down to just whatever the registration would be, and in which case I would think that cost isn't really going to be a significant consideration for the board. So I would think that if it is virtual again, which I would have a fairly strong suspicion that it will be, it's just going to be kind of on the borderline to me as to when things kind of open up. But you certainly need, if you were the organizers, you'd need quite a bit of advance time to plan this. So I'm surprised. I'm on the website right now. I'm surprised that they haven't kind of determined yet what they're doing. But if it does become a virtual conference, I would suggest that it would be, fairly easy to make this, sort of available to kind of all board members, because it really only be the cost of the registration, which probably won't be too drastic. Of course, if they do go into an in-person conference, then we should, obviously revisit it and see who can and would go. So we'll have to stay tuned and see what they decide.
Thank you, Mayor Crest. Yes, I agree. I really think it'll be a visual one again this year. I can't see anybody opening up this fast. But if anybody is interested, put your names in, and we can also even have instead of spot where we could all sit in and join in on it for the couple of days, and just to see it, have the experience of being there.
Good idea.
We will move on to the addition item that I've placed on there. Back in September 20th of 2019, we had a request from Westman Communication Group to videotape record our meetings. I myself moved it to go in camera, where we have the discussion, and it was put forward that we would be allowed, approve them to broadcast the public meetings. The Brandon Police Board, provided that WCGN provide their own staff to cover the meetings, and the same be done at no cost to Police Board. We discussed that, and that but we forgot to move it back into open board to approve it, and then the letter be sent to Westman Communication Group saying that they're welcome to videotape our meetings. So I guess what I would like to say now is to correct this, I'm looking for a motion stating that the Westman Communication is allowed to broadcast our public meetings, provided they must provide their own staff to cover meetings, and that there's no cost to the Brandon Police Board. So could we have do we have any discussion on this?
So just for clarification, although we obviously slipped up a little bit by not bringing this, so we're saying we actually never did reply back to WCG that they were welcome to cover the meetings?
That's what I'm gathering. We didn't reply back to them. So if we move it back in and pass the motion now that we say this, then we can send them a notice or a letter saying, we apologize for the delay, but you're more than welcome to broadcast our meetings.
I think Debbie Nelson has a...
Madam Chair, we did reach out to Westman and telling him that message was passed on to Westman. However, the person that originally requested it is no longer at Westman, so they currently had nobody to do the meetings. But we can certainly reach out to them again and make that offer again. So they were told, they just hadn't followed up.
Thank you, Ms. Nelson, for the clarification. That's what we needed. Now that's open board that we do approve them coming at no cost to us. Is everyone in agreement of sending another letter from from the board saying that they're welcome?
So I'll move that consistent with the in-camera decision that was made, that the board formalize its willingness to have WCG attend and broadcast police board regular meetings, providing their own resources to do so.
Thank you, Mayor Kress. Can I have a seconder of that motion? Susan Meehan. Thank you. Any discussion? Any further discussion? And seeing none, the motion is passed. All righty, it looks like does anyone else have anything else they want to speak about? If not, next regular meeting will be June 11th, 2021, and hopefully it won't be on Teams. Hopefully we'll be able to be back in chambers to do that meeting. And if not, then for this portion of the meeting, can I have a motion to adjourn the regular board meeting of the Police Board of March 5th, 2021? Sean Barry, the seconder.
Barry.
Barry Cullen. All those in favor?
All right.
Aye. Carried. All right, we'll have a 3-minute break and then we'll go back into our next portion of the meeting. How's that sound?
Very good.